So then we worked on the student relationships. Again, this has been something we've been talking about since my first day in Orange was how do we do that better? How do we define it? I saw a lot of teachers with really great relationships with their own kids, but I wanted our teachers to think about having relationships outside of the 20 kids in their classroom. So how can we all own every student in our schools? That means when they're in my class, but it also means when they're not in my class. It also means, as Shai said, it doesn't have to be a teacher. How can our custodians and our secretaries and our nurses own every student in our school? And I was really interested in how we responded to challenging behaviors, but and that's kind of where we started the work with promoting more school-based relationships. The first thing we did was define some protocols for how we respond to students in our school. It's called our Purple Card system, but basically if you have a student who needs a break, we have a protocol in the school where other teachers have volunteered to leave their classrooms and respond to that student. And so those teachers have offered, and that list keeps growing every year, which is nice. But then we have some students who need a specific person. And so relationships are really key in that because we don't want a person who's going to escalate a child. We want someone who they know and care for and are there to help. It's not punitive. It's not disciplinary. It's just, hey, let's go take a walk. We then have created a tiered system of behavior support, which is much like an academic referral, but it's behavior referral. So teachers have a place to go when they're struggling with a student who might have some behaviors. And the goal is to give them some tools to add to their toolbox and hopefully decrease those behaviors. At that meeting, though, we also think about relationships. Who is the student? What teachers have they had that have had success with them? We bring them to the table. We've had meetings where we've had the nurse, where we've had the custodian, and we build plans around that student. It's been really fun to talk about each student as an individual, what makes them tick, who are those people that they can rely on, and how do we utilize them during the school day. And so it can be anyone in our community, not just the classroom teacher and the standard referral team that you might have in your school. The relationship map was great because we were talking about every student in our school having a person. And we did this thing one year where I gave every teacher, every staff member, like a handful of kids just to check in on throughout the year and have them be that person. What it lacked, though, was a concrete way in which to view that graphically. And when I saw this tool in the building blocks workshop, it just clicked. I thought, oh, I wish I had this a couple of years ago, but it's been really important in the work we're doing with remote learning because that was my biggest concern. How can we not lose any kids in this setting? And how can we use relationships as a lever to keep those kids engaged? Because that's what it's going to do. That's what's going to keep kids engaged. It's not the content. They come to school for the people. They come to school for the relationship. So we need to know who has these relationships and how can we use them to keep kids engaged during this time. You can go to the next slide, please.